everyone. We're back. Welcome to part 2 of our kind of Australian Open before the semifinals preview, I guess. Yeah. In the last episode, we took an extended trip to Coach's Corner, and TH talked to us about how a coach would kind of objectively look at a matchup and watch a match. So if you're starting here, shame on you. Go back, listen to part 1. But here in part 2, we're going to continue that conversation and start looking at the bottom half semifinal between Novak and Sasha Zverev. TH, what are you excited about? What are you thinking about when you look at a matchup like this one?
I think that this matchup is going to be very, very key. On the surface, you've got Father Time creeping in, and on the other surface, you've got Father Time creeping in. You've got one of the best of all time looking for 25, and you've got, I'm yet to win one of these, and yet I'm one of the best players in the world. That to me is a very, that's a very strong undertow of this entire match. If there was ever a time for Sasha to play big tennis and get through one of his rivals, who he's beaten multiple times before, it's now.
Never at a slam, though. Never at a slam.
Never at a slam.
Never at a slam.
And if there's ever a time for Novak to cash in on 25, it's right now. He has bested one of his early rivals, and dispatched him. I want to say, especially with those 3-set wins in the second, third, and fourth. And he's starting to play Novak-like tennis. I am in the preview, and I'll go through my objection. My objective view. On paper, I would tell you, if I'm looking at, there's 3 battles. There's the battle of court, there's the battle of time, and there's the battle of options. If you look at the battle of court, Novak wins this battle a lot. He's got the best returns in the game. He's got the best on the rise in the game. He probably hugs the baseline a little better than Zverev. And if Zverev backs up to those Melbourne letters of just a
which
bit
he will
too
do,
much, which he will do and is known to do, Novak will take away court. And I look at the battle of time. Novak showed against Alcaraz that he can hit through you from time to time if need be. And I think Zverev has a huge serve and big shots, especially off his backhand side. Novak's got one of the best backhands of all time. I just don't like, if anything, it's a draw. And the tie, so to speak, they said the tie goes to the runner. The tie goes to the 24-time slam champ.
Yeah.
I look at options. I don't see a lot of extra options coming from Sasha Zverev. He's got the big weapons. He's got the ability to pass. He's got a big frame, and he moves incredibly well for his size. Novak can come forward. He can serve and volley. He can drop shot. He can run things down. The only thing that I feel in that realm is that Zverev is just a tad more nimble and a tad bigger frame and younger. That's the only thing that I give Sasha in those matchups, in which case 2.5 of the 3 tilt just enough Novak's direction. And we're in a slam. I would say that Novak, in my opinion, has the edge. I look at the serve return of serve. That's a match. That's almost a counter to each other. Sasha to serve to Novak's return. Sasha's got great returns. Don't get me wrong, but I think Novak does more. We made this point in the previous episode of the serve +1 better perhaps than Sasha does,
because he's willing to step up to the baseline and actually look 100%. For that forehand and dictate from there off the first ball.
Here's probably the key. And Sasha won't change as much, or at least he has it up to this point.
Right.
And so now you got Novak, who will change whatever needs to be done. And so I give that the adjustment nod to Novak, but also in the fact that once Sasha shows him what he will do, provided something weird like an injury or something else, Novak will find that adjustment. He'll find where to stand. He'll find where to move up, when to move back, how to change up, how to bring heat, how to keep Sasha uncomfortable. And if Sasha, to me, has one good way to win, Novak's not going to attack Zverev. You know, he doesn't mind going the distance. And this match, to me, is going to be a real test of what will Alexander do to change. And he has not done a great job of that, in my opinion, up to this point. And it will be very difficult for me to see him changing now. at this late stage in the tournament.
Yeah, so you could almost look at that from both a macro view and a micro view, right? Like
Sure.
that's been kind of the knock on Sasha up to this point. Like ever since he hit the scene, he's kind of been the same player up until now. Like whenever it comes time to, take control, he's more willing to rest behind the baseline, play a lot smaller than his size actually would allow him to play, right? So coming into this season, coming into this tournament, right? He's humming through this tournament. He's dropped maybe 2 sets. He stood up tall and played some big tennis, especially in his last match against Tommy. But now it's like, okay, now the ultimate pressure cooker of your new approach is against the Shaolin master here, right? Yeah.
Yep,
So,
Shaolin.
has that macro change been made? And then when we get into this very closed scenario of one match, can he make the micro changes? And that, when you just kind of look at all the stuff you mentioned, Alex is younger and, and more durable and a little more nimble and all that kind of stuff. Well, like so was Carlos, and we saw what happened, right? So I when you start looking at all of the things, right? All of the different categories of like, things that we look at and judging the players against each other, it's like I just don't see how Alex actually wins this match. Like he may get a set, like he will be able to serve his way through if he can get a break early in a set and Novak plays a loose service game or something like that. I trusted him to do that. Do I trust in him to, when the chips are down and it's time to meet the moment in any given set, 5-all in a breaker, something like that? That's where he is consistently against the top players underperformed, gone into a shell a little bit and underperformed.
100%. Perhaps even gone too small. Perhaps not gone big enough. Perhaps not trusted his forehand enough. Not trusted to serve enough. We saw that years ago against Team in the final of the U.S. Open, and obviously, what was the final last year?
Against Carlos at French Open.
And then the French, right?
Same thing. Back into the fifth set.
Same exact thing. Right there, for him to win, he's gonna have to win sets 1 and 3, or 2 of the first 3 sets, and I think that will help him to at least have some confidence, and then you can let Father Time and the injuries and the durability be on his side. If he drops 2 of the first 3 sets, Alvin, I don't know. I don't know if I could see that being a route. And if he loses the first 2, man, I mean,
come on.
It could be a straight set affair and never really get out of the gate. I am more worried about Sasha Zverev and his long term after this one, because this to me would be a bit of a nail in a coffin for him, in my opinion, than it would be. Where I could see Novak having a bit of a bad day, potentially, and Sasha come out serving bombs. I could still see Novak being a threat for a few more tournaments this year. This one here, to me, could put the nail in the coffin for Sasha everyone in the Slam. And I hate to put it that way, because I've known Sasha from a young age. I've known his brother Misha, who was one of Sko's early wins back in the day at the Eddie Hearn, way back when he was a top 5 ITF player. I know the Misha was telling us all then how good Sasha was going to be one day and so on. So I've known about this kid since 2004. You know what I mean? So you can appreciate how long it's been. I will say that to you to say, this one has a lot of big stakes for both players on this one.
Yeah, and I'll save my my funny Sasha Zverev at Eddie Hearn story, because it's a good one. I'm gonna save it for another day. But I do think a lot of this is gonna come down to what time of day does this match get played? If this is the late night Australia match, then it's gonna be colder, right? Balls aren't gonna pop as big, and I think that's obviously gonna favor Novak. I think another thing that, Novak is a lot like the Tom Brady's and the Michael Jordans as they get older. They're just looking for a reason, right? And right now, Novak is on the precipice of doing something that I'm pretty sure no one has done before in a Grand Slam. He's got an opportunity to take down number 3, number 2, and number 1 to finish out in a row. Yeah. And all he wants to do is just fight off these kids. I think right now he's just relishing the opportunity to do that. But I'll say that before we move on to the next match. I think we both feel like this is Novak's match to win. Like
it's his to lose.
His to lose. It's
certainly his to lose, and it's not to say that he's infallible. We've all seen him lay off some goose eggs and some tough moments, but
rarely best out of 5 though.
Rarely best out of 5. Rarely out of Slam, and rarely with it would take some doing. It would take a lot of doing and the right circumstances for Alexander Zverev to pull this off. And like I said, great tennis. I'm looking forward to a good match.
Yeah. All right. Let's bounce up to the top semifinal there. We've got hometown hero, not hometown hero, but the U.S. stalwart Ben Shelton. Did I say Brandon Shelton? Ben Shelton against one Jannik Sinner. Jannik had he had a very tough match against Holger 2 rounds ago, and then
bounced back and
straightened up and took care of it. Looked like a machine against Alex de Minaur.
I was hoping for Ben's sake that he was sick or hurt.
Yeah, no, he's ready to ship
whatever
for sure.
Whatever the stomach bug was, man, give me some of that Pepto-Bismol, buddy, because that brother, he came back, almost looked pissed off that we thought that he may have had a chance to retire. I mean, I don't want to talk about the Holger match too much, but I saw some great things from Holger, and I thought he was on the verge of just tapping out. Here's the flip side of that comment. Because he didn't, and he has survived the worst match of the tournament, it was a.k.a. Pete Sampras against Alex Corretja back in the day when he was puking in the back corner. And it reminded me of old school Sam and Corretja back in the day. And oh man, I gotta say, getting through that match to me forged my idea of the steely competitor that Jannik Sinner is. I've spoken in the previous episode about how him and Novak had this savvy way of using the clock, managing the rules and the enforcement of the rules to their favor. And you heard it right here. He did it like a champ, came back out, slow walked back to the back to change clothes, slow walk back out, gave his camp a nod like, I'm good. I got this. And I said to myself, dude, you're limping. Now you're walking slow. You ain't no nod. I went to bed after the third like there's no way. There's no way he won the fourth and going away. And I'm like, oh. And so I was, and then Holger starts calling the trainer. That's when I went to bed. I'm like, Holger, you can't call the trainer. You know what I mean?
Right.
What you got in your behalf is your speed and you're in better shape. So and then when he bounced back, Alvin, I said this is over. Ben has played great, but Ben has been the recipient of a gift draw. With other players being knocked out. That's no disrespect. That's not his fault.
That's what happens, but
And he has been the beneficiary of Foe and others gone out. But I'm going to say, but you heard it right here. This one here, in my opinion, right? Even Gail, and I don't want to put too much in the Gail match because Gail retired, but I want to say at the standpoint of he hasn't gone 5 yet. If I'm accurate on the match stats. And I just don't know if he's ready to go 5. One of the best returners so far that he's played and the current number 1 and defending champ. And I don't know if his other ways to win are sure enough at this point in his career to beat Jannik another way.
Right. And that's kind of the issue. Like, he hasn't gone 5. He's gone, 4 a couple times. And one of those was a short 4 and that that Gail retired against him. Yeah. In the 4th set
Not
early.
Even the 4th to me.
And he has had a pretty good draw, right? He took out Musetti in there, but then I think he was the beneficiary of Gail beating Taylor, who was the 4th seed, right?
Sure,
so that was that was the spot that should have been what you would say Fritz's quarter, right? So, but I think when you start to look at like the characteristics of the match, like what does one player do well, what does the other player like, how does he hurt the other player? I think it just doesn't math out well for Ben, right? And I think that has shown up in their head to head, right? Like they played 4 times last year, and Jannik lost 1 set in those 4 matches. So he's got him kind of like almost like he likes his ball. Jannik likes Ben's ball.
Sure.
Like Jannik's not giving up much space off the baseline. Like Ben's not gonna be able to push him backwards. And I don't think Ben returns well enough actually to match up with Jannik's one of the best first serves in the game right now.
Sure. And being left is going to change a little bit of that, but not enough.
Not enough.
Matter. I mentioned this earlier in our previous episode about our weapons are going to cancel each other out, right? Ben's got the big serve. Jannik's got great returns. Those are going to be what they are, right? There's going to be more aces than you thought. There's going to be more great returns than you thought, but that's going to largely be, statistically speaking, a wash. The second and more key matchup is going to be Ben's returns to Jannik's serve, right? And it's going to be, does Ben want to win the longer points? Is Ben going to transition to Jannik's passes? I don't know if I like either one of those options for Ben at this point in his career. Do I think he'll get there eventually? Yes. But do I think it'll be there by tomorrow? I really don't. I just think it's going to be a tough call for him. The other thing, if the longer it goes, I could see that taking the legs from under Ben on future service games. And I could see that actually helping Jannik. So assuming Jannik is actually back healthy and good to go, which is all indication.
Yeah, he looks like he is. Yep.
I just don't, man, it would be hard. Best case scenario from what I'm looking at, playing the way they are, Ben could steal a couple of breakers and push it to five. It's what I'm hoping happens, right? As a fan, and I know Brian very well, huge fan of Ben and all that he's accomplished. But he's going to have to look at this match, in my opinion, over the next 6 months to 2 years and say, how do I get this number of weapons in my arsenal so that I'm not just a 1-2 punch? I have other ways to beat you. I have other ways to bring pressure to you, because unfortunately he's got a lot of pressure on himself to hit big, serve big, finish early. And that's a lot of pressure against a guy who's patient, tactical, covers the court amazingly well. And, oh, by the way, has 4 slams already. And about similar age. That's a tough order. That's a tall order.
Right. Yeah. And I think 2 slams, 2. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Jannik's got 2, both last year, but he's got 2.
Could be 2 more at the end of the year. Forgive me.
Yeah, exactly. But I saw Ben play last year in Miami when I was down there, and he played against Musetti, which is interesting. That like Musetti, I came away from that match thinking, man, he's just his B game really isn't there yet. Like there isn't the safety that I want to see in someone who has all these big weapons, right? And, we don't necessarily always rise to the best versions of ourselves. We often fall to our practice level, right? And so that was missing in March of 2024. Fast forward to August of 2024, he looked like a more complete player at the U.S. Open, right? You're starting to see him making more balls. He gets to the semifinals. He hangs tough with Novak, right? A lot of growth. And I think that growth has continued up until this point. Like he's now semifinal back-to-back Grand Slams. Like that is not something that we should overlook in Mr. Shelton's development here. So like you said, I think the ideal version is he's keeping points short when he can. He's getting in when he can to pinch off volleys at the net. But then also like getting ourselves into a tiebreaker, right? That's kind of the space he wants to go and let 100%. let the numbers fall in his favor.
Evo Karlovic tennis, buddy. Evo Karlovic tennis, hold serve, rinse and repeat, and just get to the breakers and steal a couple. He is slicing better. He's getting the net a few more times. I find that his backhand is not as slap. I feel like the chances he's taken are not near as irrational as they were before. Not off balance as much as he's been in times past. Just watched him in August or late July at the Atlanta Open, which wasn't his best tennis, wasn't his best tournament. Some might argue that he cashed it in a little bit early to kind of get ready for the tournaments, but I would say that he played some. His last year was certainly a good follow-up. I am looking forward to a good match. I think it's to be a good test of Ben's future, in my opinion, against the top 1 or 2 going forward. Because at the end of the day, he's going to be in one of those guys' halves. He's going to be in Novak / Zverev's half, or in not to mention Alcaraz, obviously, or in Jannik Sinner's half at some point. So to get through them, right, and not play, he got the U.S. Open before he played Francis Tiafoe. No offense to Tiafoe, but that's a good, friendly rivalry match. If I had to play you, Alvin, in the semis of a Grand Slam, I would be like, that's a lottery ticket. Yeah. However, you're playing, I know you, right?
Yeah, and it's loose. It's loose.
I'm loose. Yeah. I know Alvin. I feel good about my chances versus playing some guy I haven't played, who's another player who's, I don't know, man. That's a much different matchup. And then here, even when he played, who did he play in the round before when he got to quarters of Australia? What was he lost
to Tommy.
That's what
in the quarters of 2 years ago. Yep,
2 years ago.
So I was at that match. I was actually at that match. It was a fun one.
even those matches, I'm like, he's had some great opportunities to play guys he knows, right, in these moments. So I'm not saying he hasn't played any slams since then. Of course, he's played some great tennis. He's a top 10 player in the world. I feel he's got, I told you this before the start, I think he's got the best chance of any of them to win a slam, so I'm certainly a big fan of Ben Shelton. I just think this particular matchup, if you had Fritz there, buddy, I would be leaning toward Ben in that matchup. If you told me he was playing Zverev, I'd be leaning a little bit to Ben, some magic. He's playing against Jannik Sinner. And I don't know if I like that matchup for him right now.
This is more of a I think more of a checkpoint in his maturation, because I mean Ben is 22 years old, right? I think we all kind of the story's been told that I think Australia last maybe 2 years ago was his first time going outside of the country to play a tournament, right? So he didn't grow up playing the traditional ITF circuit and so on. So like this, seeing these players like that are kind of in his age range, but like bringing different things, like he's still growing as a tennis player.
100%.
So I think it's house money for him. Hopefully I think he will show up. He always shows up. So I think that's going to be a fun one. But I think
he's a Boris Becker of types, isn't he?
Yeah.
Had a big splash on the stage right when he came out, and took him another 5 years or so, I know, for Boris to kind of fully mature and get his game full and complete before he won his next slam. And I think it's a lot like that for Ben. And to your point, this would be a good match for him to really learn from, and his team can help him really continue to develop for that level. Because
Absolutely.
the top are only playing, they're really playing for those top 4 players,
Right.
and obviously at those 4 tournaments.
Yeah. All right, let's take a bounce over to the women's draw, and we'll start on the top half with Aryna Sabalenka and Paula Badosa. So to set stage there, like everyone knows they're best friends, and
Sure.
we previous episode we talked about how Aryna is extremely complete right now. She's kind of outside of that Andreeva match, she's hacking her way through this. Like she's having flashes of brilliance in the tournament, but then she's also having some uncharacteristically sloppy tennis, but yet, she's bankable. Here we are in the semifinals where she should be. And then on the other side, we have Paula Badosa, former number 2 in the world, gets injured, drops down into, the nether regions of the rankings. And then last year was her first year back on tour.
Like crazy.
Again, she's climbing back. She still lost some of those tough matches that, like, third set against Navarro and at the US Open, where like, you can see her tennis is there, but maybe she's just not there. She's not ready to reclaim her, position as a top 10 player. But that has all changed. She's playing lights out tennis right now. Almost put on a clinic against Coco Gauff of like, this is how you do it. And now she's in a semifinal. So what are you looking forward to in this match?
Once they get past and they will, the friendship game or two, you're gonna realize the first big pump fist and the first big, come on, it's game on, and they'll be friends afterwards. But for that 2 hours, they're gonna be mortal enemies. You know what I mean? As you can expect, both of them are highly type of competitors. I learned a lot about Aryna when she played Anastasia. I gotta say one more time. Pavlyuchenkova. Thank you. And I'm gonna call her Anastasia so I don't have to, or Anastasia, so I don't have to say her name a few more times. What Anastasia did, and much like Badosa stopped, come back, was top in her game 3 or 4 years ago, had an injury, came back and kind of built her points back. You heard it right here. Anastasia was out hitting Aryna Sabalenka in that match, and found her form, really found a way to groove and beat. I was very impressed with how she played her. I saw something. I talk about adjustments all the time. Aryna found a way to block returns. She never blocks returns.
Right, exactly.
She blocked some returns. She took away some of the time that she was taking from herself. Let me say it differently. She gave herself some time. Her big returns were taken away, and Anastasia was absolutely cranking off of the ball that she was being given. Quick side note, Navarro needs to go work with Anastasia for about 2 weeks and figure that part out, because when she plays against the Swiatek, that's what she needs. And nobody does it to me better than Anastasia. But she also showed me, and this is a preview for Badosa, how I'm starting to find my form against you. And the second time I see it, I may have the goods that day. But
Yeah.
today I don't. And that's what I see with Paula going against Aryna. She has the ability. I don't, and she's coming around. But I don't know if she's ready to beat a player on both sides. Let's face it, Coco has played the most error-prone match she's played. We all know the forehand has had some issues. The serve
That
wasn't
thing
as
went
big as it's been
dead
before.
for a while. That thing went dead for a while in that match.
Away. And I'll leave Coco out of it for right now.
Fair.
Sad to say, it was pretty glaring, and it was almost a clinic on how Paula just routine almost everything to that side. She served to it. She rallied to it. Step-ups to it. She approached to it. I mean, she did everything in the book on how to attack a person's weakness, and it got to the point where I almost felt bad for Coco at a certain point. I was like, Coco, quit going left. She ain't going. She's coming for cheap forehand, and just go big down the middle and find one. But she didn't. And I say that to say, you don't have that luxury against Aryna. Aryna's got both sides humming. Her serve's looking pretty good. Her return's getting better. She found a way to change it up a little bit. She's been coming forward on a couple. This will be a tough match emotionally, but I kind of see this being 2 close sets, or maybe a slow start first set and second and third going toward Aryna.
So there are probably 2 things that I most appreciate about Aryna Sabalenka's game that I think don't get enough attention. And I think maybe a couple episodes ago, I talked about Aryna at length and mentioned how complete she is as a player. But the 2 things that I think the 2 of the things that she added maybe 2 years ago, or really you could see one of them was due to her increased level of fitness. Right, her footwork is impeccable. She moves like someone who is, let's say, half her size. She is an athlete's athlete. But her footwork, it's like she's a ballerina. Like she is spot on her feet. And then the other thing is mentally. She is so mentally tough. It's the serve and the big forehands and the grunting and it's the big game that gets all the attention. But it's those 2 things that I think allows her to not just be a one-off Grand Slam champion, but where she can, if she wins this tournament, we're starting to talk about where in the record books is she going to be, right? She's won 3 Grand Slams at this point. Like, we get to 4 and we're talking about something serious. Iga has 4, right? So I think in this matchup, there's one thing that's interesting because these ladies, like, they are really good friends, but they did play 3 times last year. And I think I saw all of these matches closer than you'd think. And it always comes down to, like, the first set's always highly contested, and then the second set can get a little strange. But they did split sets last time they played. Granted, that was on clay. No, sorry, 2 times ago, Stuttgart. Well, Stuttgart's also on clay. So their last 2 matchups had been on clay, Stuttgart and then Roland Garros. But I think Paula is in a different place right now as a player. Her game's tight. Mentally, she's right where she needs to be, where she was in like 2021, which is like, also the last time she got a W over Aryna, and Aryna was also a different player then. So I think now you're seeing both players fully formed and at the kind of like peak of their powers, if you will. So I think they're both going to bring it. I think this first set is going to be, I think they're going to get past this friend thing pretty quick. Because I haven't really seen it be an issue in the other matches. I think it's going to be lights out in the first set. And I think this is the instance in which Paula actually steals the first set, because I think she's actually playing better than Aryna is right now. Over the course of the last 5 matches that they both played, Paula's she's been playing at about, like you talked about your different levels, she's been at about a 4 since round 1. Like she's humming. And Aryna has used her fortitude to get herself through some of these matches where she hasn't played as well. But I think this is where it all kind of comes to a head. I'm gonna step out on a limb here and I say this is the one that Paula gets. And I actually think it's gonna be in straight sets. It feels like a 4-2 kind of match. I think she's gonna take that first set, and I think that's gonna put Aryna on her heels a little bit.
I think for your sake, I think, and the reasons you mentioned, I agree with the points you make. While I agree to disagree on your overall result.
Fair.
It has been my coaching experience, and this is going off your exact points. It has been my coaching experience that players tend to play really well, and they have a tendency not to play as well right behind it. Played at a 5 almost a 6 against Coco. That is what concerns me against going into Aryna. Aryna has not played great up to this point.
One good match. She played well against Andreeva, which is almost like tailor-made for her.
I almost think that match was really her 4, not her 5. I thought Mira didn't play great that match.
Sure. Yeah.
Ironically.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to tell you, she played a gritty 4 against Anastasia and had to, because she was absolutely on top form that day.
Okay.
I feel that if there was a day for her to bring her 5 game, which is yet to arrive, and you know it's there, it's a 2-week tournament. Of course, it's going to get 6-7 matches. You're going to play the gamut of your range. I feel it's more likely for her to play a 5 for the first time than it is for Paula to play a 5 again in back-to-back rounds.
Fair. Okay.
That is where I'm going at with that match. That's not to say that Paula can't steal it in general or steal the first, but I feel like Aryna's playing very well. The one point that I would completely agree with you, her mental, I'm going to use the term here, Alvin, her mental flexibility, not her mental toughness. Her mental flexibility has gotten so much better. She was always tough. She was always feeling too tough on herself. She's now flexible enough to get past it. She gets over her mistakes and things quicker.
Yeah.
She's got a boyfriend. Her life is more complete. She's not still mourning her father. There's things that she's understanding about herself that I've been here before. I don't get pissed off on that stuff anymore. Hats off to Coco for kind of hitting a little bit of that post-mortem in the tournament, kind of realizing, it's not the end of the world. I'll be back. This is a long year. I was happy to hear her maturity in her comments. But in my opinion, for this match coming up, I feel like Aryna is going to get up for this match, and she's going to actually have a ball that she likes, a consistent shot she likes. Paula likes to hit step up points as well, like a good Spaniard, she almost hits the ball big. I hate to say it, almost like Moya, for a young lady. She likes to tag it, but that pace, unfortunately, is going to favor Aryna, in my opinion. So there we are. We'll both be looking at the match.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this one.
I'm looking forward to the matchup. I tell you, the match I'm perhaps really hoping is a match is that against Madison Keys and Iga Swiatek. I just feel like Iga, oh my God, she just dismantled poor Emma so bad last night. I felt like, you know how I was as surprised at that match as I was with the Fokina match and Tommy Paul. I kept waiting for there to be more, and yet Tommy never let Fokina in the match. He never let him in the door. And I felt the same way with Iga and Emma yesterday. Emma got to rallies midway through the second when it was over. She was on her back foot hitting buggies midway through the second down a break, and I felt like she just finally caught up to the return coming that fast. And so even the match that they showed that I think she won last year. I don't know, was maybe India Wells, I want to say. It just seemed like I don't see Madison when she was swinging from the hip, serving big, coming forward. She just almost trying to out-consistency Iga. You're not going to out-consistent Iga, right? And you're going to have to find a way to come big, go behind her, come forward. A lot of guile, a lot of all court, a lot of big serving, and really taking some risks on the return, which I haven't seen Madison do a whole lot up to this point. I feel sometimes she's in this, she kind of confuses who she is and what her strengths are in matches like this. To get through the previous match, she'll do some things, but that kind of takes away from who she is. And I feel like she's in a match now where she's going to need every single last one of her weapons to be on and to be sharp and to be ready. She's not going to beat Iga through consistency and taking time away, per se, by her baseline. She's going to take strikes and take body blows and go hard, big down the middle, hard, big body on serves, come forward and just force Iga to be in the worst spot all times on her heels. I don't know if I've seen that tennis from Madison. Dare I say it?
So it is. I think it's out here on Front Street that I am probably Madison Keys' biggest fan. Probably right behind Bjorn Francangelo, right? But I think this is okay. So this is what I've seen, right? So Iga's humming right now. Like Iga's bakery is open. She is blitzing people, bagels and breadsticks
Drive-through.
left and right.
Drive-throughs like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
Two drive-throughs.
it's bad right now. Like she's looking like 2023 Iga on clay. Like it's a bad scene. But there are some things that Madison is doing right now where I think the thing that we've talked about this before in our relationship, like game style clarity.
Yeah.
She's seeing it. She's had a couple of changes in the last few months, right? She changed rackets, right? Went from that Wilson Ultra over to I think she's using a Jannik's E-Zone now, and she went from gut to poly, right? Which is just kind of allowing her to
swing free,
take off the governor and just swing free, right?
Yep.
And trust it. She said as much. Yep. She's like that's kind of the biggest change in my career. I trust it. She trusts the swing. Now, what she has to do in this match is trust herself. If this match, Iga will blow you off the court in the first 45 minutes. You got to weather that storm. Like she will come out hot and firing, and the big difference is it going to be, are you going to be down a set and a break in 45 minutes, or are you going to be at 5-all? And if she can trust herself, especially she's serving quite well, right? And she's being extremely clear about what she's trying to do, which is stay consistent long enough until she gets that ball. When she has the right ball, pull the trigger. Yeah. Be clear and be clean, right? Yeah. So if she can do that and trust that it's going to have to balance out in her favor over the course of maybe a longer first set. The one time she did beat Iga, it was pretty handily on hard. Every other time it's been pretty handily the other direction. So I think it's going to have to be a blend of that. Like hold tight in that first set. Stay within yourself because Iga's going to come out firing.
Go the distance
and be willing to say like it's almost like I got to go like Shaq for 45 minutes. I'm going to get hit on the free throws, but I'm going to continue to attack and dunk. And then hopefully she's the last one left standing. It's a horrible matchup for Madison, obviously, right? Iga's a bad matchup for most people, right? But yeah, she's going to be on her throat from ball one. And you even mentioned, I don't know if this was in the last episode or not, but like Iga is the modern day version of Steffi Graf. And like she walks around the court like a menace, right? Head down.
Oh, she's dark maul.
Brim down. Day. Yeah, she's like, I'm just here to.
Maul. She's walking around while the doors are closed, pacing back and forth. And I think she's closer to Novak, in my opinion, of the modern day equivalent. I think that there is a way to beat her. Madison has the tools for sure, the height, the strength, the size. She has all the things that Iga doesn't want, but yet Iga has proven to be very proficient at defending, right? So, you know, I look forward to that match. I look forward to that match being a match. I don't see that in any way disrespectful to your favorite player. I look at it being it's going to be, and she has nothing to lose, you know, which I'm sure Bjorn's telling her. You have nothing to lose. You've already been a Grand Slam finalist. If you want to get back there again, you have to play. I just love the way you said it. Be clear and be clean. But she's going to have to go for it, Alvin. She's going to have.
She's got to go for it.
Second serves.
Got to go for it.
Can't be a whole lot of going for big shots at bad times. She's going to have a lot of body blows. Iga, as any good player is, much like Monica Seles back in the day, is phenomenal on the wings. Mm-hmm. She's not great down the gut. Up the gut is the body blows. First step ups. First she go right at the body. She should have overhead at the body. She should have serves at the body. Slices, flats, doesn't matter. And then occasionally, zing her out wide with a slice. Zing her out wide with a kick. And then go behind her and come in and close up the volley. Much like, I tell you who did this the other day, Novak Djokovic did it to Carlos.
Right,
he just used his speed against it and showed him a different level of play, which Novak's he's no Tim Henman, but he came in when necessary because he knew he had to, and it was tactically necessary. And that's what I think. If Madison does that, A, I'll be impressed. B, there are a few players I would love to see more than Madison and Aryna playing in that final.
Yeah.
With knockdown, drag-out tennis.
Yeah.
That is big-time tennis. Not to say that Iga won't be very high level, but on hard court, you love to see the two titans clash, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's going to be I think the women's matchups are extremely interesting. I think we both feel like the men's matchups are probably a little more straightforward, and we probably expect a Novak Sinner rematch in the final. I think the two women's matchups are going to be extremely interesting on a lot of different levels. But that's why they play the matches. So, yeah, I mean, this was fun. I feel like coming back after the finals of both, if we feel the need to hop on again before the finals, we'll do so. But if not, you'll definitely hear from us at the end of the tournament. We'll do a little post-tournament wrap-up. This is our first Grand Slam together. Myself, Torrey, Best of Three Nation. So, however you're watching this, however you want to reach out, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about the format. Let us know if there's something that piques your interest or you wanna learn more about or hear more about. It's a two-way conversation. We can't hear you, but we can see your words, and we're wanting to give you the people what you want. But until then, I think we'll put a pin in it. Torrey, always a pleasure, and
Pleasure's mine, Alvin.
We will get back at this in a few days. All right.
Look forward to it.
Be easy.
Peace.